Hello, hello, hello. Wow. I'm really honored to be here today. Today's going to be a sensitive conversation. My name is Antoine Hunter. I'm also known as Purple Fire Crow. Today, March 22nd, 2021. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of what's been going on in America and other places. It seems like people are attacking people. Thinking back to people being attacked for being black or the part of that BLM. I was watching the news recently and my heart breaks. I can't tell you, I got to show you what I seen. So I'm going to have an interpreter come in, Miss Kaylee, and interpret this video.
Fresh produce, hot pastries, curbside conversations. The familiar sights and sounds of a bustling morning in Oakland's Chinatown, now pierced by a palpable tension. Volunteers in bright orange vests dot the streets, fanning out on day-long patrols after a spate of attacks rattled the community. Longtime Oakland resident Kazuko Hishida said the patrols help.
And of course, I feel a little safer myself. It's all about keeping an eye out for each other. I had a major meltdown on February 17th when I heard the latest incidents, and I couldn't deal anymore.
The most high-profile attack happened in January in the heart of Chinatown. A 91-year-old man was captured on video being shoved to the ground. The violence got worse around the Lunar New Year in February, when elders are known to carry envelopes of cash. It's another elder, 75-year-old Joe Ma, who started the safety patrols.
There are a lot of different ethnicities in Oakland Chinatown, and usually it's very harmonious. But with coronavirus and the economic situation, people are getting desperate.
Ma started walking the streets last March.
I can name Kung Flu.
Then President Trump repeatedly highlighted the origins of the pandemic.
War against the Chinese virus. It's got all different names. Wuhan.
Kim Tran researches issues of race and social justice movements. She remembers when she
Thank you, Kaylee. Really, I'm frustrated from what I've been seeing happen in my own town, Oakland, happening in other states, places I love visiting. It's happening there. It's happening here. It's happening everywhere. Many of them are, my black brothers and sisters that, I'm upset that they are caught in this light. My Asian people are my people too. They've been my people from the beginning. So I called my sweet friend, a leader. Her name is Patty Liang. She's the executive director of Deaf Spotlight, which oversees artistic and cultural programming to support deaf and artists and their work. Throughout her career, Patty has pursued opportunities that encourage the deaf community to embrace and celebrate the arts. She has a BFA. Yeah, she has a BFA in ceramics from the University of Washington and an MA in a nonprofit management for the arts from New York University. She believes that everyone has the ability to create and express their story through art. Please welcome Patty.
Hello.
First, how are you?
Well, I think all feeling we're all feeling it, We're wondering what happens next, We don't want this violence to keep continuing, We want it to stop.
Yeah, the news that betrayed here in my home area. What was your first, noticing that it was happening here?
I feel awful for that family who lost their grandfather, he was just walking down the street and someone just shoved him and ran. And, some people might think, oh, well, it's just a shove. No, he died. And this has been happening nationwide. Last week in Georgia with the shooting, in the New York subway, somebody was cut. So many different instances of physical assault, attacks, violence, and sometimes it's not always physical, sometimes it's verbal discrimination and oppression. And some people think, oh, well, it was just, one time. No, so often it's overlooked. And COVID has really just exacerbated it and has really shown just a huge uptick in the violence. So it's not only just this one instance, this one area in Chinatown. No, this is happening nationwide in the US. This is happening worldwide. This is happening in Africa, in Tanzania, everywhere. And this has been happening since, the colonization of, from Europe.
Yeah, people don't realize that, kind of sometimes people think, something happens in our society and it's a specific person, whether it's the land of animals, but it's dangerous on the culture. No, it shouldn't be like that. I remember I was like, wait a minute. With about the Ebola in people really need to listen to one another. When the pandemic, people felt the anxiety of the pandemic. People weren't really thinking clearly.
Right. And people are experiencing things that they have never experienced because of this pandemic on a global scale. And they're figuring out how to navigate things and also having to deal with, the president who initiated and provoked so much. People think that this is local, that this is temporary, and it's not. It has permeated society and affected our lives. It's affected our safety in our own home community. It's affected our health. Many people have died due to COVID-19. And due to careless behavior, it has only contributed to the death toll. So it's there's always that, well, who can we blame? Who made the decision? And And sometimes it's, a perfect storm thing. It's multiple decisions and multiple things, and we need to take a breath and breathe and just have these conversations and this dialogue within our community, and focus on the locality of our own home community to make sure that we are, making it through this time.
And I want to say that, you're right. Many cultures that have experienced, that this is happening in our country, that maybe another country hasn't experienced yet. It's, taking that experience and preparing. I mean, you're definitely right. A person like in China that are sick, masking up, it's kind of already tradition.
Mhm.
It's already the Chinese culture is already in the traditional mask wearing, because of the flu and trying to protect themselves from getting sick and already and protecting other people from being sick.
You're absolutely right. They're very familiar, with wearing that mask as a practice because it's a collective society, and so we're all working for the betterment and the health of one another. It's, a way to contribute, essentially, to help the community grow. It's not as individualistic as, other cultures tend to be. It's collective. It's how can we work together to support one another? How can we collectively each take a part of the responsibility? Yeah. And so people are often shocked because it's not only in Asia. Oh, I'm sorry, you're saying?
I missed the beginning. What was that?
Sorry, yeah, I'm getting a little bit passionate here and speaking kind of quickly. But this is not the first incident that has happened. Over many years, when immigrants come to America, for example, when some Chinese individuals came to America to work on the railroads, we experienced depression since the beginning of settling in this country. We were unwanted, and laws were passed that banned and court ordinances, and for example, Japanese Americans during World War II were placed in confinement camps. So it's not only this one example. There are overt and covert examples of discrimination and oppression that has permeated this American culture. And you see it with your elders, with your grandparents, with your friends, with your partners. So many have experienced it, and it's not only Black and Asian races who have suffered. There is Latino, Latina, indigenous tribes, so many have suffered. And we need and deserve reparations. It is not only the Black community and worldwide. For example, Nintendo, let's use technology for example, and anime and K-pop and so many different things, dishwashers, so many different technological advances have come from, many different cultures, from BIPOC people, from women, creators, engineers. We were the inventors in many of these devices. Many, music, hip hop, fashion, so many different things I can name have come from, these minority groups, and it needs to be appreciated. And again, we deserve reparations for that.
No, I'm hearing you. Yes, thank you, thank you. Many people, they just think that this is just happening to Asian hearing people. No, but this is happening to deaf people of all types. People don't maybe not recognize that our sign language, ASL, American Sign Language, it has an element of racism.
Yes.
It's for like, we have Black Sign Language, African Sign Language. Today, Asian Sign Language has its sign is correlation to culture. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the appropriate sign, right? The Chinese sign. That's the old sign for Chinese was in correlation to the eye. Do you mind expanding a little bit on that?
Definitely. Yeah. Many people automatically assumed that Asians are a monolith, and we're not. There's so much diversity within the Asian community. There's Indian and Filipino and Vietnamese, Japanese, so many different cultures within the Asian umbrella. And so, of course, we're going to have, different language variations. It's not all standardized. There's so much diversity, history, culture within our language and our culture. And so, if people are wondering how can we support the Asian culture, well, read, learn about our history, about our struggles of going through our history here in America. So my advice would be to get a book, learn the perspective that is, our perspective rather than the whitewashed history that is often taught in schools. Learn about, the BIPOC contribution that we've provided if you want to support, the Asian community.
Yeah, you mentioned about whitewash. Yeah. I remember seeing, President Trump, watching him, it didn't make me, it didn't sit well. Watching him on the news, he called the pandemic the Kung Flu. The Kung Flu virus, the Chinese virus. It's inappropriate. It's not right. It's COVID. It affected the world. It's a world virus. Now let's go back to your background. Were you born in America, or did you move here?
My parents immigrated here for better opportunities in life. I have a sister and a brother, both deaf. And so they moved here for better access to education for their deaf children. Because prior to my siblings and I, there was no deaf in our family. And unfortunately, Chinese culture views deafness as a disability, in that medical, pathological perspective. And so they moved here for better access to education for us.
What do you mean? Now, what do you mean? Can you expand on the disability not being viewed well?
Yeah, they view it as shame, as a weakness, as not worth living. And you have to recognize that many people in that culture don't have a positive view on people with disabilities.
Yeah, the same. Yeah, disability. It's wonderful. We're human.
Right. And that's not the perspective that they have.
Yeah, moved here for better opportunity.
Yeah, so they moved to America for that better opportunity for us to have education. And so I'm the first generation. My siblings and I are first generation here in America. So I do identify as Chinese American. Racially, I am Chinese, and culturally, I did grow up in America. Often people will ask me where I'm from, and then I respond with Ohio, and they're shocked. Many people just naturally assume, oh, I'm from China. And it's like I have to prove myself and validate, their thoughts as to where I'm from. And it's like they don't take me at face value with my word as to what I say. They're so shocked by it, because they just assume that I was born in another country. And so with our conversation now, I'm hoping people will find a different way to approach that, to be able to make connections, to build trust, to try and find different ways to make a connection with not only just beginning with where were you born.
Yeah, I see your perspective. You're a proud American. Yeah, but you feel like America has a lot of improvement to do.
Definitely.
As your role as an educator, it's your responsibility to provide opportunity to the community. Other people who try to connect with different cultures. Well, I think you'd already mentioned it a little bit about connecting in different ways.
That's fine. That's fine. You can keep going.
What is for like Asian culture? What's a way of how we can connect with the Asian culture? And that leads me into my next question: how do we support our Asian brothers and sisters? And there's so many of us, right? There's so many ways of supporting. Can we just sit back and provide pity that things happen? But no, what's the best way to support?
I can share some of my personal story. And just to let you know, I did not grow up as a deaf Asian artist. Clarification. I did not grow up having deaf Asian role models. It wasn't until later in life during my master's degree that I finally had that exposure. Growing up, I was mainstreamed. I had one interpreter with me all day. I was used to being the only one in that school system. I was surrounded by many white peers, mostly white peers. And it wasn't until I got to college that I really developed my deaf identity and my Asian identity. Ironically, I had, my family, but that was it. Essentially, we were in a silo, in a white area, and my family was all I had. And so when I pursued art and became an artist, that's when I began to be involved with other deaf people in the deaf community and not just only having an interpreter, That's when I began to breathe and live art. And so when I finished art school, my art residency, I began to meet other artists when prior to I didn't have that accessibility because they didn't hire interpreters and they didn't, oh, well, you're deaf and you need an interpreter, that's expensive, and you know how capitalism is. They're not seeing me as an artist first. They're seeing me as deaf first and what that's going to cost them in the bank. And so in college, I was volunteering with different deaf organizations, really immersing myself in the community, meeting so many different people. That's when I began to learn more about advocacy. That's when I began to be able to merge the two, to combine those worlds of art and deafness and advocacy.
Michelle Banks.
That's when I began to meet Michelle Banks, other artists, other pillars in the deaf community. So when it became time and I was ready to graduate, I wanted to have a conversation with other deaf artists. And we began to I then relocated to Seattle, Washington. I wanted to see more BIPOC deaf artists, and there's a hub there. So I wanted to be in the middle of the action. And that felt like a smooth path for me to dip my toe in the field, to be surrounded by BIPOC, Latinx artists. The field isn't easy. There's many struggles, but there are a significant amount of opportunities in the Seattle, Washington area. So that's when I began to be involved with other artists, and we established Deaf Spotlight. I wanted a large group to come together to support the community, to advocate for us in this community. I wanted to push for more visibility and more representation of our stories. I wanted Asian deaf stories to be spotlighted because there was nothing to represent, on TV. Where are the Black disabled? Where are the Asian stories? So I took it upon myself to open those doors, to bring them to center stage. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here with you. I wanted to encourage, again, that visibility. And so the projects that I work on, when artists come to me and they ask me, should I do this? I say, yes, go for it. We work together in order to bring this to the audience. Because so often people don't think that we have a story to tell, and we do. We have so much to express. And we just need to be given a chance. We need to have those opportunities. And so I wanted to welcome those stories, to be heard, to be felt, to be seen.
No, thank you. Thank you. I know people need to know about that. Partnering, people's perspective, whether you're, Chinese, Japanese, whatever it may be, is just, doing whatever it is that they need. It's about, like you said, partnering, collaborating for the community. I know right now people are picking on my Asian people, and I'm not happy with that at all. I want to make sure. I want to make sure that we can make them feel safe. Personally, I know I did hashtag stop the Asian hate. Trying to get, trying to spread the word more. Somebody asked me, where can we find a place to stay safe when I don't feel safe in my home? People were just recently experiencing violence. Have you, or do you know of?
Yeah, I'd say donate money to Asian organizations is a start. Let's push for better policies and law that are against Asian hate.
Yeah.
Anti-hate. Let's get some anti-hate bills placed into law. And hate crimes are real. I just want to point that out. You can report them. So many people think, well, I'm being targeted, but if I say something, I'll be in trouble. No, please document that. If you have any Asian friends, offer just to be a friend. Offer to bring them food, to use the buddy system. You know, if you're going to a white area, go with them. You know? People assume that, again, this was a one-time occurrence, and it is not. It has not had visibility in the past, which is why it's important to share so that we know that this is happening, and it's been happening. For another perspective, there's hashtag Stop Asian Hate. I think a better wording is hashtag Stop White Supremacy. Hashtag Stop White Terrorism. Many people think it's happening out there in other countries. Nope, it's happening right here on our home turf. It's happening right here, and it needs to be eradicated.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a great perspective. Anyway, let's not just stop the Asian hate. That's right. Let's stop the white supremacy. Yeah, you're right. I was recently watching the news. Oh, so I just want to give a content warning. So I just want to give a audience warning, content warning. TW stands for trigger warning. So I just want to make that known to the audience, because this is a serious conversation that needs to happen. Like I said, I was recently watching the news. There's a man, that was just out, just shooting just indiscriminately Asian people.
Some people are saying it wasn't related to race, that it wasn't racially discriminatory, that it was sexism, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
What do you think?
I think it's multifaceted. I think there's many layers to this situation. I think there's no excuse.
Right. Yeah. No excuse.
I mean, if they said a person was having a bad day does not equate going out and shooting people, first of all.
Yes. I'll be honest with you. History. In America, when a black man shoots somebody, they're labeled something negative. When a white man shoots somebody, they're labeled, they have a sickness, they're ill. But it's plain and simple. Discrimination is racially based. I mean, it's not a oopsie.
Right.
Oh, it's not. It's motivated. I mean, let's call it out. It was racially motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that the actions were racially based. Asian, BIPOC individuals, they didn't deserve that. Somebody that person that died was somebody's sister, mother. I mean, child. To my family too. I mean, it's triggering. I can't allow them to whitewash us, to distract us from supporting, the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't racially motivated. Come on, let's call it out. Let's call a spade a spade. That was a racially motivated action.
Mm-hmm.
Homemade in America. What's the sign that you use for terrorists? Do we just kind of finger spell it?
I don't have a sign. I finger spell it.
We need to make one, because we need to call it out. It's right. It's like what you said. This is not an isolated event. This is ongoing. We need to identify it and stop it. Call it out. Because I'm fed up. Fed up. Yeah, we need to stop it. Yeah, I like what you mentioned about the buddy system. I learned something new today. You're right. Yeah, asking, would you like me to escort you? So I got to elevate my game. You're right. We need to add legislation.
Yes, anti-hate laws.
Yeah, anti-hate laws. Perfect. We need to go to our regional area, and we need to kind of vote for more of that support. Vote for the people who want to do that. It's really interesting that people don't that their vote can stop this. Yes, we got to fight. Some people may not realize that same fight got you the president. Not Trump, but
Right.
right.
But
Sorry, thank you. I'm so emotional right now. I'm flustered. Sorry.
I mean, we went through an awful 4 years, traumatic. We survived it, and now we're on the road to recovery.
Yes, that was a tough 4 years. It was just so much turmoil. We need to be looked as human. That we are here. I'm sure. People who were born in this country that are Asian have probably heard the phrase "go back to your country." It's like, what? I was born here. What are you talking about? Typically my response. What would be your response to that?
Yeah, to be honest with you, people forget that there's immigrants that previous generations moved here, and now you have people who are born here, but you also have people who moved here by force, due to war, due to whatever the reason may be. And sometimes, it was not by choice, and they had to move here.
Yeah, I told my white friends, you ain't from here either. Indigenous people are the first. The first.
Right. And so it's to remind people, it's so important to remind people that those phrases, they're not careless. You need to take ownership of that. This is indigenous people's land. And it is not yours. It is rightfully theirs. People have internalized bias and prejudice that they grew up to, that society has ingrained in their mind and their way of life. Nobody is neutral. And when situations like this happen, we need to look at the facts and not base our thinking based off of, our prejudice, our bias based off of other people's opinion because they have biases as well. People will gossip, they'll talk. And I think it's important to
Be patient.
be patient with each other and wait for the community to respond by those who actually have been impacted.
So let's look at some of the community responses. One is hashtags for marketing and algorithms. The work to end racism is beyond the hashtag, understanding how activism and advocacy work. There's another comment. When terrorism happens, they're always making an excuse and getting away with it. Wow, thank you. Engaging in this conversation today. You've taught me so much. You've answered some of my personal questions. I know now it's time to switch it over to the audience because they got some questions for you. Are you willing to engage with the audience?
Sure.
Okay, audience. Now it's Ask Patty. This is her name sign. Ask Patty anything in connection to this topic. You can type your question into the chat box if you're watching it through YouTube or watching it on Facebook or on Twitter. So I understand that this is a very sensitive topic. Maybe people are, not, trying to digest it. While they digest it, what's the plan for the future?
Well, I work with a wonderful person. Their name is Momo Holt. Momo Holt. It's spelled her name is Monique Holt. That is their name, Monique Holt. And we work together. And our goal is to do a festival next month. We're curating work by deaf artists. Amazing work from, all over the nation. And don't get me wrong, COVID sucks. But our program is planning to have some virtual elements. It's going to be a virtual festival. And so we also get to work with artists from, all over the country and all over the world that we wouldn't have had that opportunity before because we wouldn't have been able to afford to fly everyone in. Those costs would have been astronomical. So because it's virtual, we're able to have more opportunities to work with people that we haven't before, to spotlight many different people with different skills. And so we're actually very excited for it. We get to work with BIPOC artists who live in the US, who can apply for grants. We awarded 4 rewards of $1,000 each. And so we're offering those grants to 4 individuals who apply. So go ahead and encourage your friends, BIPOC in particular, to go ahead and apply because we're creating a space of ingenuity, of art, of no barriers. So again, just encourage them to apply.
So those who are watching, you guys got to get on, subscribe and follow Deaf Spotlight. Here are the Instagram handles. We have deafspotlight.org. There's a Facebook, IG, Twitter at Deaf Spotlight. Yeah, please subscribe, follow. They have so much great information. I think you've been going for about 10 years now, yeah?
Yeah, this festival will be 10 years come 2022. So we're going to be streaming on Facebook Live for anyone that wants to check it out.
I think I see some questions. So one of the questions is, to begin with, could you show us the appropriate signs for Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Korean? Says, I know some of those I have been used old signs not knowingly. Would you like to be, could you be, I want to be respectful. So could you teach us?
Yeah, I'd encourage you all actually to follow an account by a Chinese, Japanese account holder.
Oh, this is the sign for Japanese.
Clarification from the interpreter. This is the sign for Japanese. This is the sign for Vietnamese. And this is the sign for Korean. And this is also Taiwanese. So I would just encourage you all to follow along. This is the sign for Filipino. Now understand the sign for the country. This is how you sign Filipino, but Philippines. But for a Filipino individual, this is how they typically sign it. And there's signs from individuals from those countries online, so you can also check those out rather than learning them all from me.
Right. So I know you're not speaking for all deaf Asian individuals. You know, you did mention that this was something that your personal experience, but like you had mentioned, it's go ask, you know, go investigate the people who use the sign, authentic. I know you had mentioned that you're Chinese American. You know, ask somebody who's Japanese. Right. Yeah, we should. Oh, I see another question.
And it's important that you keep learning, keep being curious, and keep learning. Oh, was there another question?
Yeah, the question is, how can we find more information on the grants for the BIPOC deaf artists to share with the community?
Right now, Deaf Spotlight is doing the one program to give out those grants. There are other artist grants just in general. I don't know about other ones specifically for the deaf community. So I know Deaf Spotlight is just, we have our grant awards. But there are artist awards out there. So for specifically, you know, the deaf BIPOC individuals that want to apply to a grant, there might not be a lot out there, but I would encourage you to apply to some. And deaf blind, deaf, you know, all of the different subsets of the deaf community. I would encourage all of you to work together to be a part of this community. And
I want to give a shout out.
I want to also give a shout out to Urban Jazz Dance Company and Mocha.
Voca. You said Voca, right? VOCA?
Yes, well, it's called Visionaries of the Creative Arts. So that's acronym is VOCA. There's also PTT, Pro Tactile Theater. So they also have some.
Oh, I didn't know that. Pro Tactile Theater. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's many really amazing organizations that are doing such fantastic work. And so support those artists, support the organizations, and support each other.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I gotta remember there's so much work to do. We're a team. We got a team together. I'm learning more and more. I didn't know that there was a tactile theater. Did you? I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I'm terrible at spelling. Do you mind?
Pro tactile TACTILE
Oh,
theater.
thank you. Wow, I didn't. That's something new I learned today. Every time we run this show, I learn something new. So I'm so happy that we had the opportunity of you coming here today. Got to learn something new. Now look, audience time is almost up. Miss Patty's a busy person. This is the time to ask your questions. But if there is a question that you have pops up later, please contact her. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right? Your Facebook 24 hours?
I mean, we need to take care of ourselves, so
Okay.
Monday through Friday, let's keep some business hours there.
Let me go ahead and show that website again. I want to make sure I give the audience the right information. Again, you can follow Deaf Spotlight. They have a website, their social media. I know today is a sensitive topic, but thank you, Patty. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being, coming here today. I know that you were really authentic. Thank you for the story, history. You have a beautiful culture. Yeah, you are American. You belong here too. So I really appreciate. Do you have any final words that you want to give the people?
Definitely. Well, first, thank you for this opportunity to be a part of Deaf Woke. I know this was a really sensitive topic to discuss, but it was important that we have this open dialogue. This is something that's current. It's happening now. It's happening to the Asian population. It's happening to the Black community, to Indigenous, to Hispanic. We are members of a global world, a global community, and we have to support everyone. I want to remind the white people watching that you'll never truly be in our shoes. So to take our word for it, to fight for us,
White supremacy only supports white supremacy.
white supremacy continues to support the white system. And we need to abolish that. We need to tear down that system and build up something that is going to support our communities. If something is preventing equal accessibility, if something is not equitable, then we need to reanalyze that, and we need to, again, tear that down and build something better, something that is equitable. So thank you again for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you again for sharing the truth. Thank you. Well, I'm gonna have to call you later to come back so we can focus on the art.
Yes.
We definitely need to talk about deaf art. Yes. Deaf Spotlight is an amazing organization. And I've had the honor to be involved with Deaf Spotlight. They are beautiful organization. I have nothing but positive experiences with Deaf Spotlight. People, I hope you donate to Deaf Spotlight because it's a beautiful, growing organization. It's getting bigger. And with your support,
Yes.
it can get even bigger.
Yeah, I want it to expand.
Yeah, it's because they got a big heart. They are about action. They're not walking the walk. They are doing the work. They are making it happen. So thank you, Patty. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for your amazing work. Keep it up. Keep it going. Keep having these open discussions of these really challenging and sensitive issues. We need to talk about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Okay. Wow. Let's see what the audience has to say a little bit more. Let's take a moment to breathe. Okay. So, final thought. Yeah, we got to stop the hate. Me personally, I've been talking about stopping the hate, stopping the violence. We all bleed the same. We all have the same heart. We all have bad days. Sometimes we communicate with one another well, and sometimes we misunderstand one another. And we don't, society isn't taking the time to listen to one another, and that starts a war. Maybe you don't realize, maybe the other cultures has the same experience as you. We're human beings. My Asian friend, she's deaf. Same parallel story. Maybe you didn't grow up. Maybe that they didn't grow up with a father. Well, I didn't grow up with a father either. Some of my Asian friends have taught me wonderful things about myself. Believe that all cultures should understand one another, that we're special. We are human. We deserve each other. We shouldn't hate each other. We don't deserve that. And that's okay. If I don't like you, that's okay. We can respect one another. But to cause harm to people, cause hate, to engage in murdering, that's not okay. We're human. We deserve to give. Wait, give yourself light. Hate is not light. That's darkness. It's very toxic. It's smoke. You can't breathe through it. You'll hurt yourself more. It's pollution. It's a waste of time. You disconnect your own soul from others. COVID should never be blamed on one culture. The pandemic shouldn't be blamed on anyone. The pandemic can happen all over the world. It's part of sometimes natural. And we need to prepare for it, to fight it. Who controls the earthquakes? Who controls the Wayne hurricanes? Who controls the pandemic? We can't prepare for when those things happen. But we shouldn't take time to blame a culture for earthquakes happening. We need to do better as human beings. We need to really listen to each other. Again, we have to practice listening. And when we do that, love happens. When you really understand someone, reciprocity of respect, you love yourself better because you become open into accepting one another, accepting information. It's called wisdom. You don't come on. You don't, practicing love is not something that is quick. We got to respect other cultures as well. That's me. If you want to spread the virus, use love. That could be a wonderful virus. Love. The love virus. So thank you. I want to thank all the people who've come and watched. Thank you to Patty, the interpreters, audience, How Round, Drop Labs, and you for watching. I know this is a sensitive topic, but you agree that it needed to happen today. If you agree, if you believe that this should have happened, come on, go ahead and share that urban jazz love. Click like. Let me see. Come on. Where's it at? Yeah. Also, remember to donate to Deaf Spotlight. Wait a minute. Yeah, I like the other hashtag. Stop white supremacy. Whew. This is Antoine Hunter, also known as Purple Fire Crow. Thank you all for watching. Hashtag Deaf Woke.